So welcome again, and today we are looking at our topic number 4. Topic number 4, which is called shares. Which is called shares. Topic number 4, which is called shares. So let's start with the introduction. Introduction. Introduction, and we write that in general language, a share means a unit of ownership in a company. A share means a unit of ownership in a company. It means a unit of ownership in a company. First of all. However, the Companies Act defines the share in 4 ways. Defines the share in 4 ways. 1. A share is a share. A share is a share in the share capital of the company. A share is a share in the share capital of the company. Number 2, a share is a right. A share is a right to share in the capital of the company. To share in the capital of the company. Number 3, a share is a right. A share is a right to share in the profits. To share in the profits or liabilities and to contribute to the losses of the company. And to contribute to the losses of the company. Number 4 is a share is an obligation. A share is an obligation to contribute to the debts. Contribute to the debts or expenses of the company. Contribute to the debts or expenses of the company in the event of liquidation. In the event of liquidation. So we are saying at that juncture that when you talk to any Tom, Dick, and Harry in the streets, we take that a share is a unit of ownership. And it's rightly so, it's a unit of ownership. But when you look at Companies Act, it gives 4 definitions, which are simply trying to expound on the implications of the shareholding. Number 1, we are saying a share is simply a share in the share capital. Then we are also saying a share is simply a right to share in the right, in the share capital. Then we are saying it is also a right to enjoy the profits. And it is also a right or a duty, I think you should have used the word duty, to contribute to the liabilities and the losses of the company. If the company makes losses, you'll be called upon. And it is also a right or an obligation for you to be called upon to contribute to the debts and the expenses during liquidation. Let's look at features of shares. 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 Number one, an interest measured. An interest measured in a sum of money. An interest measured in a sum of money. Interest measured in a sum of money. Number two, an interest having diverse rights. An interest having diverse rights. Another one is the holder has certain rights and duties. The holder has certain rights and duties. Another one is transferable and heritable. Transferable and heritable. Another one is movable property. Movable property. Another one is must be numbered. Must be numbered. So we are saying when you look at a share, you will be able to notice these things. One, it is an interest that is only expressed in terms of money. You cannot acquire shares without giving money. You must give money. And then it gives you some rights and also duties. And this share is transferable. And you can also inherit. You can pass it on to your people after you are gone. And it's also a movable property. Movable property is a property you can move from one location to the other. And it must also be numbered. Number of shares, they have a serial, all of the shares have serial numbers. Now from there, let's look at classification of shares. Classification of shares. Classification of shares. Number one, we have ordinary shares. Ordinary shares. These are shares which have the following characteristics. These are shares which have the following characteristics. Roman 1, they have no special rights. They have no special rights. No special rights. They carry voting rights. They carry voting rights. They carry voting rights. Another one, no fixed rate of dividends. No fixed rates of dividends. No fixed rate of dividends. Another one is that they get dividends after preference shares. They get dividends after preference shares. Another one is entitled to any surplus assets. Entitled to any surplus assets in a winding up. In a winding up. So that is what we call ordinary shares. They are shares, they are usually called ordinary because they don't have anything special. Into ordinary, they carry voting rights, they don't have special rates of dividends, they get paid after we have paid the preference shareholders, and in case there is any coins or any capital that remains, if we are winding up, then they enjoy that. Actually, you should have put it brackets, residual. The last point I think are residual, because this is also a very common one that is used when we are talking about ordinary shares. They get the residual. Residual in my back, yeah, what remains. I'm saying the last point is after winding up, into brackets residual. Number two, preference shares. Preference shares. Preference shares. And write that they are entitled. They are entitled to a fixed rate of dividend. They are entitled to a fixed rate of dividend based on nominal value. Based on nominal value. First of all. However, they are not entitled to annual dividends. They are not entitled to annual dividends. They are not entitled to annual dividends. So we proceed and write that they are divided into 5 categories. They are divided into 5 categories. Actually, we should have said they are divided into the following categories. Divided into the following categories. Let's remove 5 so that we don't find ourselves. Roman 1. Cumulative or non-cumulative. Cumulative or non-cumulative. Cumulative or non-cumulative. Cumulative, we explain. Cumulative preference shares. Cumulative preference shares are shares whose annual dividend accumulate to be fully paid in the years when there will be profits to pay. In the years when there will be profits to pay. Non-cumulative preference shares, are the ones which get dividends, only in the year the dividends are declared. Without considering the previous years when dividends were not paid. Without considering the previous years when dividends were not paid. Dividends were not paid. Number 2, or Roman 2, is participating or non-participating. Participating or non-participating. Write that they are participating if they get a share. If they get a share of any surplus profits. Non-participating are the ones which do not get any share, of the surplus profits. Do not get any share of the surplus profits. Roman 3 is convertible or non-convertible. Convertible or non-convertible. Right, that convertible are the ones that can be converted to equity or ordinary shares. That can be converted to equity or ordinary shares. Equity or ordinary shares. Non-convertible are the ones which cannot be converted to equity shares. The ones which cannot be converted to equity shares. The next category inaitwa redeemable or irredeemable. Redeemable or irredeemable. Redeemable or irredeemable. Ordinary shares. Sorry, preference shares. And we write that redeemable are the ones which can be bought back. Are the ones which can be bought back by the company. Full stop. Irredeemable are the ones which cannot be bought back. Irredeemable are the ones which cannot be bought back. Which cannot be bought back. So what you're saying is, obviously anyone invests in a company, the hope that you will get something called what? Return. So you invest in a company so that you get a return. Now the return that gets to the shareholders is usually called dividends. And there are times when the company is not able to get dividends because they have not made profits. And also because there could be very many other activities or many other obligations, some people will end up not getting dividends, although they have profits, especially these shareholders, the ordinary. That's why we say they get what? Residual. But these ones, they are taken to be given a preference. They are preferred. Actually, we say it's like these ones are not owners of the company. It's like contributors of debt. So they have some preferential treatment. Now, in this case, we have what we call cumulative or uncumulative. Cumulative is the share that any year we do not declare dividends. When it will be time to declare dividends, for example, if in 2019 we were supposed to pay dividends of 10, in 2020 we were supposed to pay dividends of 15, in 2021 we were supposed to pay dividends of 20, and now in 2022 we were supposed to pay dividends of 25. But this year we did not pay, here we did not pay, here we did not pay. But in the year 2022, there is money to pay. So what will happen to the cumulative? They will be given 10 plus 15, that is 25, plus 20, that is 45, plus 25, so they will be paid what? 70. That's what we call cumulative. After ile miaka iliyokwa, it will be counted. But the non-cumulative, they will only be paid this one. We already paid that. The other thing is participating. If, for example, remember we have said this preference, they have a fixed rate of dividend, which is based on nominal value. Assume the rate is 5%, and we have made a profit of 200. So if you get 5% of 200, that is 10 shillings. But we have made a profit of 18 shillings. So when we pay this, we are left with now a surplus of what? 8. If these guys can also be invited to share in this 8, then we call them what? Participating. And if they cannot be invited, we say what to second here, then they are what? Non-participating. The other thing is, if you can convert these shares, you are a preferential shareholder, but now you want to convert them to ordinary. So you become an ordinary member of the company. Then we say they are convertible, and if not, they are non-convertible. Then the company can choose to buy back. Buying back, you could refund your money. You are refunded your money, so that you are no longer in the shareholding of the company. So if that is possible, we say they are redeemable. If not, they are irredeemable. So that is about the preference shares. Let's go to number 3 now. We are looking at classification of shares. Number 3, they are called equity shares. Equity shares. Equity shares. And write that these are all other shares except these are all other shares except the preference shares. Equity shares are all other shares except preference shares. I think that is clear. Number 4 is employee shares. Employee shares. Employee shares. And write that these are shares issued to employees. These are shares issued to employees. With the objective of boosting their motivation, and willingness to remain in the company. They have no voting rights. They have no voting rights. They have no voting rights, but can be used. They have no voting rights, but can be used to resist a hostile takeover. It can be used to resist a hostile takeover. Yeah, so those are we normally call them employee share ownership program. It's an arrangement, obviously, in most cases not for free. You are deducted some money. And the objective is that you also become an owner of the company, so you work well and you feel that you need to remain in that company. Number 5 is powders. Powders stroke deferred shares. Powders stroke deferred shares. And write that these are shares awarded to promoters as a reward. These are shares awarded to promoters as a reward. As a reward. First of all, they carry no voting rights. They carry no voting rights. But they are entitled to residual profits. But they are entitled to residual profits. Residual profits. Yeah, so those are shares that are given to the promoters. Remember, we looked previously at ways in which we can reward the promoters of the company. Those people who took it upon themselves to form the company, how can we come in and compensate? Now, that is part of the ways of compensating them. And you are saying they have no voting rights and they're entitled to residual profits. The next one, they are called treasury shares. Treasury shares. Treasury shares. And we write that these are ordinary shares. These are ordinary shares which the company has acquired. Which the company has acquired back from the shareholders. Yeah, ordinary shares which the company has acquired back from the shareholders. They have no right to attend and vote in a meeting. They have no right to attend and vote in a meeting. First of all, they are not entitled to dividends. They are not entitled to dividends. First of all, they cannot exceed 10% of issued ordinary shares. They cannot exceed 10% of issued ordinary shares. So those are the treasury shares. We are saying they are shares that the company can buy. But remember, when we were looking at the issue of capital, we said that a company cannot buy back its own shares. But in this case, or cannot invest in its own, in itself. But in this case, we are saying it is allowed to buy some of the shares as long as they are less than, or they are not more than 10% of what has been issued. And once they buy, they are not entitled to dividends. They are not entitled to attending meetings. They are not entitled to voting, because it's like now the company is getting its own dividends. It is voting for itself. It is attending its own meetings. No, that is not allowed. Okay, now at that juncture, I want to give you an assignment. An assignment. Which is like this. Define a stock and list some differences with shares. So you can choose to do it there or later. If you are going to do it there, which I suggest, you can leave like a gap of like 10 lines, 10 to 15 lines. You will look for the definition of the word stock and give them differences between stock and shares. Actually, many people talk of stock thinking that it is share. Actually, we talk of Nairobi Stock Exchange. So I want you to do that as small search. You know what the difference between a stock and a share. From there, after you allow a small space of like 10 lines, let's now discuss rights of shareholders. Rights of shareholders. rights of shareholders. So these ones are very similar to the ones we discussed about rights of members, but because we said it's not a must that a shareholder be a member and a member be a shareholder, we are going to again list them. Number one, receive notices of meetings. Receive notices of meetings. Number two, attend and vote in meetings. Attend and vote in meetings. Number three, inspect minutes. Inspect minutes of a general meeting. Inspect minutes of a general meeting. Another one is inspect register of members. Inspect register of members, comma, debenture holders, and annual returns. Debenture holders and annual returns. Another one is apply to court for rectification of register of members. For rectification of register of members. Number 6 is transfer shares. Transfer shares subject to any restrictions. Transfer shares subject to any restrictions. Another one, number 7 now, share in surplus assets. Share in surplus assets. Share in surplus assets during winding up. Surplus assets during winding up. Another one is number 8, get dividends as per terms. Get dividends as per terms. As per terms. Number 9 is institute a derivative action. Institute a derivative action. Another one is request directors to call for an extraordinary general meeting. Request directors to call for an extraordinary general meeting. Number 11 is apply for winding up. Apply for a winding up of the company. Apply for a winding up of the company if semicolon and Roman 1. Roman 1. Statutory meetings are not held. Statutory meetings are not held. Statutory meetings are not held. Roman 2. Statutory reports are not delivered. Statutory reports are not delivered. Statutory reports are not delivered. Three, membership is reduced below minimum. Membership is reduced below minimum. Membership is reduced below minimum. So those are the instances that we are saying that they make the rights of a shareholder. If you are a shareholder, it is your right to get notice of the meeting, attend this meeting, vote in the meeting, and inspect the books of the minute book. And it is also your right to inspect the register of members. You inspect the register of debentures holders. You inspect the annual returns. Actually, all the documents in SEMA that they should be kept in the registered office, you have a right to go and inspect them free of charge anytime. And you are also entitled to apply to the court so that they rectify the register. I think we gave 5 reasons why the court will allow the register to be rectified. Then, in case you are winding up and there are some surplus assets, you are supposed to share. Actually, remember one of the definitions of the word share is that right to share in that surplus asset. You have the right to receive dividends as per the terms. Obviously, we will be discussing about dividends, and you see the terms that govern dividends, who can declare dividends, when and how much, all those kind of things. In case there is something wrong that is happening, you can institute a derivative action that we discussed yesterday. You can ask the director to call for a meeting. You can apply for a winding up in a court of law. If they have not done such meetings, statutory reports, and the membership has gone below the minimum. Good. Let's now look at duties and obligations of shareholders. 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 1, pay any unpaid amount when called. Pay any unpaid amount when called. Placed in the list of contributors. Placed in the list of contributors during liquidation. Contributors during liquidation. Number 3, abide by MOA and AOA. Abide by Memorandum of Association and Articles. Number 4, follow the decision of the majority. Follow the decision of the majority. The decision of the majority, unless they are oppressive and mismanagement. Unless they are oppressive and mismanagement. So we are saying that if you are a shareholder in a company, you are bound by those duties. Those are your responsibilities. One, in case you have not paid up your capital, when you are called upon, you must pay within that period. And I think yesterday we said failure to do that, your shares can be taken, they can be forfeited, and you can take us nowhere. You cannot complain to anyone. The other one is that you'll be placed in the list of contributors. In case kampuni imeanguka na kuna madeni inastahili kulipwa, jina yako itaapia kwa wale wanastahili kufanya mchango. But obviously, according to your liability, your shareholding or the guarantee is guaranteed. But now here we don't apply guarantee because shareholding there are no guarantees. Not unless you have both, because the instances you can have both. Then you are also bound by what you signed in memorandum and the articles. You should not violate that. And you are also bound to go by the decision of the majority. That's why there is voting. Yeah, if your way has not been taken, at least you have your say, and you are supposed to follow what the majority have decided. Not unless you are convinced and there is evidence that they are just malicious, they want to oppress you, and they are mismanaging the company. And at that point, you can run to the court of law and prove that this decision is not in my interest, it is oppressing me, it is a mismanagement of the company. Good. The next thing that we need to discuss is called variation of class rights. Variation of class rights. We have discussed several classes of shares, and these classes, they have different rights. So in case you want to change, what happens? Variation of class rights. And we write that these rights can only be valid. These rights can only be valid. This one, valid. There's a badilishwa. If the holders of those shares, have consented, First of all, the consent must be in writing. The consent must be in writing. Must be in writing. From holders of at least 3/4. From holders of at least 3/4 in nominal value. In nominal value of issued shares. Nominal value of issued shares. So a special resolution must be passed. A special resolution must be passed. The variation must be in accordance with the articles of association. It must be in accordance with articles of association. Must be in accordance with articles of association. So we are saying you can change these rights, but the holders must consent. And 3/4, that's around 75%. And you must pass a special resolution. Remember, a special resolution requires around 86%. So this one takes the threshold a little bit higher, 86% of the members. And again, the resolution or the change must be in line with the articles. Yeah. So even if there is a vote and it's not in line with the articles, that would be null and void. Right to object variation. Let's see, can you reject variation? Right to object variation. Anaweza kimbia kotini ama anaweza kuta mahakama mpaka kamili. Right to object variation. And right that holders of not less than 15%, not less than 15% of issued shares can apply to court for cancellation within 21 days. In 21 days. The court can either allow the variation or dismiss it. Allow the variation or dismiss it. Yeah, so in case wamebadilisha shares and hiyo mabadiliko does not go down well with you, you can always go to the court of law, but within 21 days. And upon hearing of your case, the court can confirm that that variation is okay, or they can say that the variation was not right and it will be cancelled and the status quo remains. Let's now proceed and look at something called share certificate. Share certificate. Share certificate. And write that this is a certificate issued. This is a certificate issued under the common seal of the company. This is a certificate issued under the common seal of the company, specifying the number of shares held, by the member, and providing evidence of title. First of all, a company shall issue, rather, a company shall within 2 months of allotment. The company shall within 2 months of allotment of any of its shares, or debentures, or debenture stock, complete and have ready for delivery. complete and have ready for delivery the respective certificates. The respective certificates. The respective certificates. So what we are saying is that this share certificate is a document that is issued by the company, and it must be under the common what? Seal. Remember, we said seal is the one that acts as the signature of the company. And then it is going to show the number of shares that are owned by the person. And then it is going to be the document of title. Although nowadays the shares have been converted to, we call them demobilization in the CDS account. So we are no longer dealing with certificates nowadays. Yeah, so this is actually an obsolete topic. I don't know why Carson still wants us to discuss it, but nonetheless, still okay. And when you issue shares, you issue debentures, or you issue debenture stocks, within 2 months, you should have prepared certificates. Let's look at rules regarding share certificates. Rules regarding share certificates. Rules regarding share certificates. Number 1, must be prepared. Must be prepared. And completed, ready for delivery. Must be prepared and completed, ready for delivery. Ready for delivery within 2 months of allotment. Within 2 months of allotment. Number 2, the certificate is prima facie evidence. The certificate is prima facie evidence of title. Prima facie evidence of title. Number 3, a duplicate can be prepared. A duplicate can be prepared on proof of loss. On proof of loss or defacement. On proof of loss or defacement. It has been defaced. Number 4, government can prescribe rules relating to certificates. Government can prescribe rules relating to certificates. So we are saying, in regard to the share certificates, it must be prepared and delivered within 2 months. That is a repetition. And then it is also prima facie. It's a face value evidence that you own. You are the title holder of those shares. And then, in case it has been lost, if there is proof, or it has been defaced, maybe imewarikiwa na chai, maji, ama imewarikiwa na mtoto, ama by whatever issue, you can always get a duplicate, but not the original. And government can come in and give more rules So what that means is that the company is not final as far as the share certificate rules are concerned. Government can still come in and tell you, Nini kama Destiny, this is what we want as far as the share certificates are concerned. Higher contents of a share certificate. Contents of a share certificate. Contents of a share certificate. One is name of the company. Name of the company. Number two, common seal of the company. Common seal of the company. Number three, registered holder of the shares. Registered holder of the shares. Number four is number of shares held. Number of shares held. Another one is serial number. Serial number. Another one is date of issue. Date of issue. Another one is signature of directors. Signature of directors. Okay, so just a few minutes. I'll be back. We'll continue. Okay, so we continue and now discuss something called share warrant. Share warrant, we kept on mentioning it in the previous topic. Share warrant. We write that this is a document. This is a document issued by the company. Issued by the company under its common seal. Under its common seal, stating that the bearer of the document is entitled. The bearer of the document is entitled to the shares or stock specified therein. The shares or stock specified therein. First of all, it is a negotiable instrument. It is a negotiable instrument. Is a negotiable instrument. So I told you this is a document that shows that the owner or the holder of this document is entitled. And this happens when the original shareholder has borrowed some money and the lender has requested these shares to act as a title or rather as a guarantee, such that in the event the borrower fails to pay the money, the shares can be sold. So the guy who is holding that warrant is entitled to sell or to do whatever he wants with the shares. But obviously upon the foundation of the agreement that they had with the original owner. Now I want us to mention a few differences. So in a tabular format, we have share warrant here and share certificates. We want to see a few differences. The tabular way. Just have like 5 also differences. Number 1, on the side of the share warrant, issued only if the shares are fully paid for. Is issued only if the shares are fully paid for. But on this other side, can be issued even if the shares are not fully paid for. Can be issued even if the shares are not fully paid for. Number 2, transferable by delivery. Transferable by delivery. Transferable by delivery. But on the other side, transfer process must be followed. Transfer process must be followed. Number 3. Payment of dividends has some conditions. Payment of dividends has some conditions. Payment of dividends have some conditions. But on the other side is that no conditions are attached on dividend payments. No conditions are attached on dividend payments. Another difference on the share warrant, voting rights may be restricted. Voting rights may be restricted. Voting rights may be restricted. But on the share certificate, voting rights cannot be restricted. Voting rights cannot be restricted. Not be restricted. The last one is number 5. Name of the holder does not appear in the register of members. Name of the holder does not appear in the register of members. Name of the holder does not appear in the register of members. And on the other side, the name must appear. Name must appear in the register of members. So we are saying when you look at the share warrants and the share certificates, you'll be able to notice those differences. One is that you can only be given the share warrant if the shares have been fully paid. Yeah, because remember the share warrant is like a transfer. You see now you cannot transfer what you do not own. Yeah, you cannot transfer what you do not own fully. So as the original shareholder, you must have fully paid. After you pay, now you can issue the warrant, or the company can issue the warrant. But for the share certificate, that one you are given, even if you have not fully paid. The other thing is the transfer is by delivery. Once you just deliver to the company, that is all. Once you deliver the share warrant, but for the share certificate, the due process of transfer must be followed. The other thing is when it comes to dividends, when it comes to voting, there could be some restrictions. But on the share certificate, no restrictions at all. And the shareholder of the holder of the warrants cannot appear in the register of members. So he's a shareholder but not a member. I think yesterday we discussed that. Let's now look at storage certificates and forged transfers. Storage certificates and forged transfers. Storage certificates and forged transfers. Mtu ameiba certificate. Point number 1. Original owner will require the company to restore his name. Original owner will require the company to restore his name. Number 2, the person who obtained registration. The person who obtained registration cannot rely on it. The person who obtained registration cannot rely on it. And is liable to compensate the company. And is liable to compensate the company. Number 3, the purchaser of the shares can hold the company liable. Still on the same point. In this case, the company can refund his money. The company can refund his money, restore share to the original owner, restore shares to the original owner, or retain the shares, and buy new shares for the original owner. Retain the shares and buy new shares for the original owner. So that bit is speaking to a situation where there is a transfer of shares, but the source was not genuine. The source was not accurate. Either the certificate was stolen, or even it got lost. And whoever found it, or whoever stole from you, did some forgery and presented the certificate to the company like he is the original owner. And the company relying on that, they acted appropriately. Either they transferred now the shares to the guy who is doing the thing, or they transfer the share to someone mwenye anauziwa. Because there are those two possibilities. I hope we are getting it. If the original owner, money is the original, or let's not use names. A is the original owner. So his certificate has either been lost or has been stolen. And it is now in the hands of B. Now B either stole or found it. Ilikuwa imepotea akaipata. So he did not initiate the stealing. Hii yeye alijua mahali imewekwa, hivyo ni kitaka aenda akai. Now as we speak, it is in the hands of this guy. So this guy can now forge the details. And as he forges, he's seeking to do one of these two things. One, to get the shares in his own name, or to sell the shares to another person who we are calling C. So there are those possibilities. So we are saying, after hii maneno yote imejulikana, the original owner here can tell the company to reinstate him, even in the register, and you can ask for his shares. But obviously it's not that simple. You must prove that it was actually stolen. Like, did you report to the police? Is there an abstract that reported that the shares were stolen? Ama ni wewe mmepaka na mtu hivyo useme ati amekuibia hivyo alafu ukuje claim? No, obviously it's not that very simple. The other thing is the person who obtained registration cannot rely on it and is liable to pay the company. Huyu kama alijibadilishia, he cannot rely on it, and akipatikana, he will be called upon to compensate the company. Then this guy who bought, in as much as it is not the company which did the transfer, the company only facilitated, he can still sue the company. He can still hold the company liable. Because the company, remember one of the things that we say there, the duties of the directors, you must act with care, reasonable skill and care. So as the company is facilitating this transfer to sue, they should be keen to establish the genuinity of those documents. Are they original? Is it a forgery? All those kind of things. So in that case, the company will be told to refund the money. They can restore the shares to this guy, or they can choose to retain. They buy the treasury. The ones we have seen, they buy, but after they buy, they must give the original holder or the original owner new shares. So is that clear? Okay. Those are online. I hope we are okay. Are we okay? If you are okay, can you type yes? Let me see. Leah is okay. Joki is okay. Riza is also okay. Nita is also okay. And Carl. Good. Let's now look at issue of shares. Issue of shares. Issue of shares. Issue of shares. And write that. This means that new shares in a company, new shares in a company are being made available for sale. Are being made available for sale to the public. Are being made available for sale to the public. First of all, the company issues a prospectus. The company issues a prospectus. Prospectus. A prospectus. That is an open invitation. That is an open invitation to the public to take up the shares. An open invitation to the public to take up the shares. First of all, shares can be issued at 3 prices. Shares can be issued at 3 prices. One is book value or market value. Book value or market value. Number 2 is premium value or price. And number 3, discount value. Discount value. So you can put in brackets. This is currently prohibited by Companies Act 2015. This is currently prohibited by Companies Act 2015. So when it comes to selling of the shares, you can give the shares at book value. You can issue at premium, that is at a higher value, obviously. And you can give it a discount. But currently, in the Act of 2015, it is prohibited. You cannot issue company shares at a discount. It is devaluing the company, which is not okay. Let's now look at allotment of shares. Allotment of shares. Allotment of shares. And write that this is allocation. This is allocation. This is allocation of a certain number of shares. This is allocation of a certain number of shares to a person under a contract of allotment. Under a contract of allotment. First, allotment is said to have occurred. Allotment is said to have occurred when the person to whom shares are allotted, acquires an unconditional right. Acquires an unconditional right. Conditional right to be entered in the register of members. To be entered in the register of members. Stop. The following rules are applicable. The following rules are applicable. Following rules are applicable. 1. Application form must be duly filled. Number 2, it is a contract. It is a contract. Number 3, conditions of offer should be printed on the application form. conditions of offer should be printed on the application form. Another one is allotment made by an authorized person is void. Allotment done by an authorized person is void. Authorized person is void. Another one is that allotment must be done within reasonable time. Must be done within reasonable time. So those are the issues when we talk about the allotment of shares. And we are saying allotment is the allocation. And it is said to have taken place only when you get a right to be unconditionally included in the register of members. Before that, we don't see that there is an allotment. And in this allotment, the rules must be printed on the application form, and this application form must be duly filled. And we are also saying that it is a contract. And from your contract law, you know that the contract, there must be an offer, and there must be acceptance of the offer. Yeah. So those rules are followed there. And in case someone has allocated the shares and they are not authorized, that allocation is null and void. Higher powers of director to allot shares. And write that directors can be authorized to. Directors can be authorized to point number one, allot shares. Allot shares. Number two, grant right to subscribe to shares. Grant right to subscribe to shares. And the last thing that we need to mention is called return of allotments. The last bit, return of allotments. And we write that this must be done within 1 month. This must be done within 1 month to the registrar. To the registrar. Stop. It must contain prescribed information. It must contain prescribed information. Contain prescribed information. And be accompanied by statement of capital. And be accompanied by statement of capital. Failure to return has a fine not exceeding 20,000. Five not exceeding 20,000. So that is what happens when you have done the issue of shares. You should file the return with the registrar of companies within 1 month. So we will stop at that juncture and hope to pick up from there in our next lessons. Thank you.